Hello, welcome to Old Virginia Homes. I love learning about the historic architecture in Virginia, whether it's a humble dwelling, a before restoration project, or a magnificent manor home built by Virginia gentry. But equally as important to me is learning about the people who lived in these remarkable properties. And today, we're visiting the home of an internationally celebrated artist who resided in Virginia, but whose name I had never heard about until one of the Old Virginia Homes YouTube subscribers suggested I visit. And I'm so glad I did. Not only is this house fascinating, but the artwork is extraordinary. By the way, if you have a suggestion of an Old Virginia home that you'd like me to visit, leave me a comment and I'll see what I can do. And now we're headed to Belmont, an Old Virginia home in Falmouth. Let's go. The house named Belmont, French for beautiful hill, sits on a bluff overlooking the Rappahannock River in the town of Falmouth, near Fredericksburg. Because the original deed of ownership was lost, the 1790s building date is an estimate based on physical evidence, but other documents that were recovered reveal that between 1785 and 1804, two families owned the property, the Horner family and the Voss family. The house evolved over the years, but the original portion was a two-story side passage plan with 4 rooms. These rooms are now used as the first-floor dining room and library and 2 second-floor bedrooms. In 1807, Thomas Knox purchased the home for his mother, Susanna Fitzhugh Knox. She died in 1823, and it was then that the name Belmont first appears in a public notice announcing the sale of the property. Upon Susanna's death, a Joseph Ficklin bought the property. At that time, he was an ambitious young businessman who became a wealthy miller and banker, and who raised a family of 6 children in the house, which probably accounted for some of the home's expansion, including the east and west porches and a kitchen. Ficklin also oversaw the construction of the distinctive circa 1850 horseshoe staircase, which was reconstructed in recent years. The wrought iron railing was probably originally fabricated in Pennsylvania, and the stone steps were probably constructed using enslaved labor. As many as 27 enslaved African Americans worked the land at Belmont and maintained the household. During the Civil War years, Belmont was probably spared ruin because owner Joseph Ficklin was a Union sympathizer who benefited from the protection of United States Army General John Gibbon. Following emancipation, some of the formerly enslaved became paid employees of the Ficklin family. Several of these families lived in the caretaker's cottage, shown here. In 1916, artists Gari and Corinne Melchers purchased the property from the Ficklin family. They added the hexagonal sun porch, bathrooms, and other updates. They also added the stone artist studio, which sits on the property. It is the Melchers era that you'll see when you visit the house today. The home displays an amazing collection of antique furniture and carpets, fine china and paintings. All were amassed from their travels and residences both here and abroad. Most of what you'll see hanging on the walls as we meander through the home is not the Melchers' own artwork. Rather, it is an assemblage of pieces from other artists that inspired the Melchers in some way, or moved them to reflect on memories of people or places they knew. Although Corinne Melchers was an accomplished artist, it was her husband, Gari Melchers, who became the more prominent portraitist and impressionist painter. The dining room is thought to be one of the rooms in the original late 18th century portion of the house, and includes this curious piece of furniture, an antique linen press, in the corner. But the most prominent feature of this room is this massive artwork that takes up a full wall. Painted by Flemish Baroque artist Frans Snijders, this is typical of his work, which often depicts animals, food, hunting, and market scenes. And all the food depicted here is fitting for the dining room. The library is another original room in the house, and on this wall you'll see likenesses of Corinne and Gari Melchers. The large parlor was at one time 2 separate rooms. You can see where the original wall was in the middle of the room. This wall was later removed, and this became a grand room for relaxation and entertainment. The Melchers added a hexagonal-shaped porch, which is behind the French doors. While climbing the stairs, it's worth a pause to take note of this incredible detail in the hall's crown molding. The upstairs hall has this massive wardrobe. As you can see, they were determined to make it fit in this space. Its height necessitated carving space out of the floor for its feet. As we wander through the upstairs bedrooms, here's a little background on Gari Melchers. Born in Detroit in 1860 to a German-born American sculptor named Julius Theodor Melchers, Gari Melchers trained in Europe, and his works are housed in major museums. The couple had a studio in Holland, and many of his paintings show renderings of Dutch villagers. They left their home in Europe at the outbreak of World War I. Upon returning to the United States, Melchers kept a studio in New York City, and Belmont was their country home. Although Melchers painted portraits of people with the prominent surnames of Vanderbilt, Mellon, and Roosevelt, I think my favorites are his tender portraits of mothers with their children. Gari Melchers died in 1932. Upon Corinne's death in 1955, the Belmont house and studio, along with most of its contents, were left to the Commonwealth of Virginia and now are exhibited under the auspices of the University of Mary Washington as the Gari Melchers Estate and Memorial Gallery. Thank you for visiting Belmont with me today, an old Virginia home.